actually is a former employee of Dickinson, a great former employee of Dickinson. He's the social community director for the Quads community. There he helped start a lot of different things and really was a trailblazer in really bringing together the community model along with several of his colleagues. And now he is the assistant director of housing at Shippensburg University, where he is also trailblazing and hence creating and implementing this new community model at Shippensburg. Pavan also joined us last year and really being a mentor to us and help to us for our group last year. This year he was actually very brave too in taking up the position of director of ambulatory after Norm Jones left. And he has done a great job for us and has really embodied us and helped us throughout the way. So please join me in welcoming Pavan Kriswana.
Okay, so I am going to keep the theme of handwritten notes. So for me, I actually am a big computer guy. I love computers. I love all the technology and all the options it brings. However, when I sat down to write this speech, I can tell you that it didn't feel real enough or human enough to not write it on notebook paper. So I want to start off with just some thank yous. First of all, for everyone in attendance, thank you for being here. As someone who's been with the program now for 2 years, I can tell you just how much today means to everyone in this room who's put in the work. I owe a huge debt of thanks to Norm Jones, Joyce Bylander, Damon Yarnell, and Leonard Brown for all of the support and the willingness to leave a program with such respect and reverence in my hands. I owe a huge debt of thanks to the speakers who have come in this year, both the speakers who came in bravely and spoke with the men, but also those speakers who were behind the scenes and helping myself craft messages that were important for you all to hear. To the alumni, thank you for your continued support. Whether or not you realize it, your continued presence in that room and your continued presence on this campus speaks a very loud message to our current graduates. You are success. You have embodied it. You have designed it for yourself on Dickinson's campus. And you are therefore a model for which they can look at. To my wife, when I made the decision to agree to be the director of mandatory programs, I knew that that meant a pretty considerable commitment for someone who was newly married, and that was going to take me away from 6 to 8 and 10 to 2, as well as some of that prep time. And so she was gracious enough to A, marry me, and B, say yes to me. So I cannot say enough good things about her, and I would not be who I am without her. To our graduates, a number of people have said it better than I can say it, but you have worked tirelessly and put in the reflection and the work that is synonymous with the mandatory program. And you earned today with all of that work. Lastly, and one of the most important things that I owe today to do is to thank our student leaders. Our student leaders have always played an integral role in this program, but this year especially, with myself not being on campus on a regular basis or during working hours, a whole host of responsibilities was delegated to them, and they constantly answered the call. And so I want to ask both Jamel and Eddie to stand up. I want to ask you all to please give them a round of applause because they truly... As a small token of thanks, you will be receiving a hardbound journal and a book of spoken word poetry. So please enjoy it. Something else that I didn't necessarily share is spoken word poetry has been a big part of mandatory this year. There was actually an entire session where we had a plan, and then everybody just decided to throw down the poetry instead. So I wasn't going to stop it. Thank you. So at this point, I'll actually move in to my speech. These speeches are always very challenging for me because I always want to find a happy medium of wisdom, incorporating the story of mandatory, incorporating personality, and most importantly to me, incorporating simple truths. Because in my heart, I believe that life truly comes down to those simple truths. For those of you who were in attendance of last year's graduation, you might recall me opening my speech with a story about taking a joyride in my wife's car the night before while she was asleep, because I had no idea what I was going to say, and that helped me crystallize it. Thankfully, her car is intact, and I did not steal it last night. After a lot of thought, I made the decision that I thought I found the perfect kind of forum or model for which to give you some pieces of advice. And so in being a millennial, I am going to offer you my top 10 list via BuzzFeed of lessons from Hobbit. Consider this my ode to mandatory. For the graduates in the room, consider it to be my last lesson for you this year. And to the alumni of the room, consider this to be one last time that Covet is going to ramble. So, number 10. The best things in life you will do will terrify you and not be easy. As I told you, Norm Jones made a call to me in October and said, I actually thought he was going to yell at me because I emailed him and told him I couldn't be at the first 2 sessions, and I thought I was getting how committed are you to this conversation? You know, men of mandatory distinguish themselves by doing what others don't want to do. However, it was a much more successful conversation, and he offered me the opportunity to step into the role of director. And I immediately said yes, and as soon as I hung up the phone, I had a tremendous amount of fear, because the reverence and the respect that I hold this program to is at the highest peak. And I realized that I had just signed up to help lead the charge for a program that had an incredible reputation and history. However, I can tell you now at the end of this year that I am incredibly happy that I said yes. And that, like I said, anything that's worth doing may be a little bit terrifying. Something else that I can share, and I think Damon already mentioned Bill Gates, if you look at those people who have been successful and changed the world, they've always dared to be a little bit different. You cannot change the world doing the same old thing. Number 9, success means working hard. Personally, I think one of the biggest fallacies in this country is that you can get rich without working. And in all honesty, if you show me the most successful people and the people who you most admire, I can show you the people who stayed after work. I can show you the people who made decisions that costed them personally, but they wanted to move forward and be successful. So that work must be there. 6 to 8, 10 to 2. There is a mission behind it. Number 8. Have goals. Write them down. And constantly revisit them. The most important person who can define your success is you. Have a roadmap. Nobody sets out to go on vacation and says, well, wherever we end up, that's where we're going to go. Having a roadmap and having an idea of where you want to be enables you to get there. I'm going to quote an often quoted Harvard study. In 1979, they did a study with MBA students in the Harvard Business Program. They asked them all to keep goals. 84% did not. 13% did and did not write them down, and 3% wrote them down and revisited them. That 13% who had goals and did not write them down earned twice as much as those who did not write them down, that 84%. The 3% who took the time to write down their goals earned, on average, 10 times more than the 84% who did not write them down. While I am a huge believer that you cannot define success by monetary value, that is a compelling statistic nonetheless. Number 6, perspective is the most burdensome gift you will ever receive. People of color and people from minority groups carry a burden, a thought process or a knowledge that is constantly occurring in your mind, simultaneously having a dual conversation with society. That can be one of the most draining things in a life. However, that burden can also be an incredible opportunity, an incredible gift. It becomes an insightful perspective that is unique to you and makes you different and stand out in ways that only others can dream of. At this point, I want to stop and deliver a message that Leonard Brown asked me to deliver because he couldn't be here. and it deals with that specific conversation around society. What he asked for me to remind the graduates and everyone in this room is that what society says about men of color is not true. It is our ongoing responsibility not to believe it about themselves, and just as importantly, not to believe it about each other. Number 5. Do not be afraid of the great people in this world. One of the greatest opportunities you have being at Dickinson is you have the opportunity to have a number of great speakers come to campus and a number of world-class, brilliant individuals to visit. One of the most impactful relationships that I had the opportunity to form while I was at Dickinson was the opportunity just to be around Dr. Bill Durden, the former president. In his most recent book, he wrote a chapter specifically about how our generation often is scared of reaching out to those most successful people. As a former mentor of mine once told me to help dissuade with that belief, when they leave campus or wherever their area of expertise is, they still go to Target just like you and me. The truth of the matter is, they all had to get to that place in some way. And odds are, from my own personal experience with those people, they had someone who was willing to take the time to speak with them and help direct them. And in all honesty, they are always, or most of the time, willing to offer that up to you as well. So do not be afraid of them. The worst thing that they can say to you is no. Number 4. Reflection and honesty within yourself is a huge component of success and essential in growing as a person. If you've been a part of mandatory in the last 2 years, you've heard me talk about the mirror test. Every night before you go to bed, looking in the mirror and asking yourself, have I done everything I can to be successful today? Every decision you make and every action that you take is a small characterization of who you are. And therefore, every minute of every day, you have the opportunity to change yourself and be a little more successful with those decisions. One of the most important things that I will offer to you about reflection is that no one else can do it for you. If I'm completely honest with you, this is one of the areas that I feel incredibly strongly about. And I was struck in this morning when I was driving in to help set up for graduation, and I was kind of given the choice of taking 81, which is about 5 to 10 minutes quicker, or taking the longer drive along 11 that would allow me to drive through Shippensburg, Newville, and then to Dickinson. And I almost always will take the longer road. And it's because of the fact that it gives me the opportunity to reflect about how I got here. For me, that drive is very symbolic of doing my master's at Shippensburg and then coming to Dickinson. And so any opportunity that you have to reflect is a golden one. And you'll be amazed at the great things that can come out of those quiet moments with just you and your thoughts. Number 3, no experience is beneath you or pointless. One of the things that I have been lucky to do is in the last 9 years I've gotten to work with RAs on a pretty consistent basis. And as much as I love them, one of the things that you constantly hear right around August or January is, and this is specifically of returning RAs, is, I already know this, you already trained me, why am I here? Well, the truth of the matter is that even though you may have learned some of that knowledge, it is incredibly important, and sometimes revisiting knowledge can be incredibly helpful. One of the things, and I'll embarrass my wife here for a minute again, one of the things that actually drives her a little bit crazy about me is that I love to watch movies multiple times. I love to watch television shows multiple times. I love to read books multiple times. An embarrassing fact about me is that I've probably read each one of the Harry Potter books over like 25 times. However, the reason why I do that is because even though the story is the same, every time I pick one of those up, I take something new away. I find something new in the book. And I know that even though the book is the same, I am uniquely different from the last time I picked it up. And therefore, I can find wisdom that was not there before. Number 2, and this is a quote from a famous gentleman. I cannot believe that God put us on this earth to be ordinary. It's by loopholes. I bring it up not necessarily to bring up the faith, but to bring up the fact that time in life is a gift. Answering that question, what does showing up mean, and am I doing everything I can to be successful, should be, and for you all, has been a daily occurrence. One of the things that I truly believe in this life is that every single person in this room and every single person on this earth is capable of doing extraordinary things. Sometimes we just need to get out of our own way. So, like I said, going back to those actions and those beliefs, every minute of every day is an opportunity. Lastly, vulnerability and love are the two most beautiful and powerful forces in this world. Over the last several years, I've had the opportunity to be around some amazing people. In the last few years, I've gotten the opportunity to meet Kevin Powell, Bill Ayers, LZ Granderson, one of my favorite musicians, Andrew McMahon, and also several of the people in this room who I thanked earlier. And one of the things that I can tell you, beyond just the fact that I did that just to name drop a little bit, was that in truth, their most powerful work and the greatest gifts that they gave came in times when they reflected on love, vulnerability, and passion. The best things in this world come out of those three things. Now I'm going to ask for all of the academics in the room to cover their ears, because I'm about to close this speech from a quote from TV. Actually, a very recent quote, as of Monday night. Here's the secret, kids. None of us can vow to be perfect. In the end, all we can promise is to love each other with everything we've got, because love is the best thing we do. Remember, love, passion, and vulnerability are the secret to the best things we do.